Hello, everyone. I'm Bryan, Wroten, senior reporter with CoStar News Hotels. I am joined by my colleagues. I got Terence Baker all the way from London, and we have Kelsey Fenerty from STR. We are here recapping our thoughts and impressions from the first day of the Hotel Data Conference. I think the big news that we saw this morning was the new forecast that was put out, quite a bit different from the one that we saw at HDC last year. Not a negative number, which I think was what everyone was hoping for, and actually a pretty decent number. So, uh, Kelsey, what can you tell us about putting together this year's forecast and just how everything has played out to give us something a little bit better than last year?
Yeah, I think Jan touched on this in his opening when he mentioned that in December we started to see a little bit of a change. Things really picked up as the year progressed. And then, of course, we've had some happenings that have made domestic travel a lot more attractive to Americans this year. Things like the World Cup, which had a lot more success than maybe initially anticipated, given the high prices of tickets, how much hullabaloo there was around attending. Really great success for the hotel industry. And then, of course, increased domestic travel, leisure travel, people that might have otherwise gone out of the country. If they weren't going for the World Cup, maybe they weren't going because they were concerned about, kind of the conflict in Iran, higher fuel prices, higher flight prices. That kept a lot more people domestic this year, I think. And that's definitely reflected in our forecast. It's 4.4% for the year.
I mean, just listening to earnings calls for the first quarter and most recently, the second quarter earnings calls, just everyone is saying we thought performance was going to be good this year, and results have for the past two quarters come in better than we expected. So it's quite a turnaround from all of the disruptions we saw negatively impact travel demand last year.
Yeah, and I think, and Jake Bruno pointed this out in his forecasting. He did a forecasting assumptions session earlier this morning. He pointed out that last year was a little bit of an aberration, a little more negative than you would expect to see. I would almost, and I'll address this tomorrow, call it close to, if not truly, a mini downturn. And that makes this year a year of recovery. Of course, if you have, Jan calls it easy comps, you could also just say an off year. Of course it'll be better this year, and that's definitely reflected in the forecast. And then the same on to next year. This is a year of recovery. What's next year? It's a little bit more stable. It's a little bit more quote-unquote normal, whatever that word means.
Yeah. The only slight problem is just when you have the year-over-year comparisons, particularly with some of the looking at rates in some of the World Cup markets. Even if it's good next year, it's still going to look worse than it actually is.
Yeah, and I think it's just really important to keep in mind that you can't continue accelerating growth forever. You can have growth on growth, which is what we're expecting next year. I think we're at 2.1% RevPAR next year, led by rate at 1.6%. So we are definitely expecting good things to continue, just at a slower pace, which again is pretty normal.
So, Terence, what did you hear from the panels that you covered and the attendees that you talked to?
Well, largely I saw positive today, but there are some stark realities being addressed. The World Cup was this year, maybe despite it or because of it. Not every market did very well in that, so I heard today. But on the other hand, there's more incomes of 200,000 US dollars combined. That has grown significantly, and it now accounts, I believe, 11% of all travel spend. 11% of all households in the US, I apologise. And then there was some stark realities around issues such as climate change. I know it's not always the subject spoken about a great deal in this administration, in the US at least, but there was hoteliers who obviously demand and depend on snow, not having a hard time. From a European perspective, and my ears coming from London, we've had a terrific heat wave this year. What's that going to do? They're not coming to America, apparently, Europeans. And they're not going to Italy in August. It's just southern France in August. I mean, we're here, they're sort of going to Lithuania, Poland, and places like that. So, that's very. It's got to be in Europe at least. We need air conditioning, probably, but there's, it's still a very weird dichotomy in terms of where that international spend is going to come. Will it come back to America next year? From what I hear, no.
I mean, with the World Cup matches, like there was a lot of anxiety over just the process of actually coming over and all that, but we saw just a lot of international fans coming here and really enjoying themselves. Like a lot of social media clips of, you know, just being astounded by just the types and amounts of food that have been served, you know, different restaurants and venues, and just really having a chance to meet Americans, you know, face to face, one on one, and just having that kind of like interpersonal
You're
diplomacy.
friendly enough.
Yeah.
I think the headlines didn't help. We had a lot of headlines going for that big story type. You're not going to get a welcome here, etc., etc. Europeans will come back to America. I mean, it's America. It's we're here in Nashville.
Yeah.
You know, there are demand drivers all through America. It's a land of myth, which I always find surprising considering Europe's older. But America is the land of myth. You know, it's the open road, the pioneers, the different localities you have in different markets. They'll come back, but more marketing spend needs to be done, I think. Everyone has a choice, but I think you can capitalize from that demand that is not going to Italy, Spain, southern France, Greece, because it's too hot. And of course, August is everyone's off.
Yeah.
Everybody's off in southern Europe. They're off in northern Europe too for school holidays. But in southern Europe, they just do not work in August. So can you capture that demand? I mean, even for Italians, it's too warm to be in Italy in August. So there's opportunity.
I wouldn't mind having the whole month of August off, but
Same.
then we'd miss this, right? So, any final thoughts from day one of the Hotel Data Conference?
I guess I'll tee up that I'm closing tomorrow. But
Okay.
Something that Elizabeth Mullins just said in the final panel general session really stuck with me, and I think it might come up again tomorrow, so I'll highlight it and say that she mentioned being inventive. That hoteliers need to be inventive in what they're doing, and as she was speaking to the guest experience and creating new experiences for guests, I think there's a much wider application to that, and I think that's a really important takeaway from this conference this year.
There'll be more work done for hoteliers in programming. I think ADR in luxury hotels, it looks like most people who go to that level do not flinch when ADR goes up by any amount. So the upside is going to be on experience, we all know this, but programming. If you want to have dinner on top of the Empire State Building, that's possible, I'm not sure, that will be provided. That's the kind of thing that you're going to get, because it's all pure profit. So I think we've seen in London a few brands are coming from the US there. Accor brands, French company obviously, but with Delano from Miami, Faena from Buenos Aires, it's going to be like a mega luxury level. ADR is no problem to people who go to those hotels. So work on your programming, work on your experience, erode your friction points, which shouldn't exist in luxury anyway, and you should be okay.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up for us for the day one of the Hotel Data Conference. And yeah, if you're listening or watching this in time and you are an attendee, make sure you check out Kelsey closing out the conference for us.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm CoStar's Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast work.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.